When you think of Charlotte Flair, you think of royalty. You think of a 14-time world champion, WrestleMania main events, and the highest paid female star in the entire pro wrestling business. But you would believe that when she first arrived on the main roster to start the women's revolution, her first paycheck was barely enough to buy a used car. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be breaking down some fascinating financial admission from the Queen herself. Appearing on the Trading Secrets podcast, Charlotte Flair opened up about the reality of WWE pay during the start of the Divas Revolution, the smartest money move she ever made, and how she went from $13,000 check to building an empire. We're also going to be discussing what this reveals about the pay gap in 2015 versus today. But first, I have a question for you. Do you think WWE superstars are underpaid when they first start out, considering the travel costs? Drop your opinions down in the comments there below. Now let's get into the story. To set the scene, we have to go back to July of 2015. This was the most pivotal moment in modern women's wrestling history. Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks were called up to Raw to change the game. You would assume that being called up to global television would come with a massive immediate windfall. However, while speaking on the Trading Secrets podcast, Charlotte was asked about the smartest financial decision of her career. She revealed that when she first got her first main roster check, she immediately handled it. She handed it to a financial planner, but the shock came when she revealed the amount. She said, I think it was $13,000. Now, for a single paycheck, $13,000 sounds like a lot of money to the average person, including myself. But you have to remember the context. WWE superstars pay for their own rental cars, their own hotels, and food on the road. When you factor in taxes and expenses of being on the road 300 plus days a year, that number shrinks rapidly. It's a stark reminder that even the chosen ones start with humble numbers. What makes the story more interesting isn't just the low number. It's what she did with it. Most young athletes that get that first big paycheck buy a luxury car or jewelry. Charlotte Flair took that $13,000 and gave it to a professional to manage. She told the podcast that she has carried that same financial outlook for her entire decade-long career. She hasn't let the lifestyle creep in and destroy her wealth. This discipline is likely why she is now one of the wealthiest women in the sport. It is a side of the Queen that we rarely get to see. The calculated businesswoman who treats her career like a diverse portfolio. Not just in a wrestling sense, but in a life sense, right? This revelation also highlights just how far women's wrestling has come. In 2015, the women were fighting for time and evidently fighting for pay equality. Fast forward to 2025, Charlotte Flair is main eventing stadiums. She has leveraged that initial run into becoming one of the most decorated female superstars of all time. We're talking a 14-time women's world champion, a former Royal Rumble winner, holding the tag team titles earlier this year with Alexa Bliss. She went from a $13,000 check to $1 million contract. It proves that in WWE, your entry-level salary doesn't define your ceiling. Your star power does. Charlotte Flair is still one of the top featured performers on WWE television. She's coming off of a Survivor Series loss. She is still continuing her pairing with Alexa Bliss. I've made my feelings known on this because coming out of Survivor Series, Charlotte Flair did an interview. She was talking about how, hey, maybe it's time that I go back to being a single star. Maybe it's time that I go back to going after the women's world title, the women's championship. What if I go in that direction? And to that, I say don't do it. I think WWE has found absolute gold with Charlotte Flair. They found gold with her and Alexa Bliss. And I think anytime that you're in a spot where you can really hone in on, hey, this works, this gets a reaction, this is over, we find success, you should go with that. And for years, WWE has attempted to make Charlotte Flair a babyface. And time in and time out, they have tried it, they've given up on it, and they moved on with it because it never worked. And it's not from a lack of effort, because Charlotte Flair has clearly tried to make it as good as possible. But I would say that WWE fans didn't accept her as a babyface because she didn't come off genuine. She didn't come off realistic. She didn't come off authentic. It almost felt like a forced act. And for whatever reason, the pairing with Alexa Bliss has given us a different side of Charlotte Flair. That pairing has done wonders for Charlotte Flair. It done wonders for Alexa Bliss. And I think the fact is that you bring out the best in Charlotte Flair when she's with Alexa Bliss. And the reason I think that is because Alexa Bliss has been able to build and create a loyal fan base. They believe in this woman even when the company doesn't believe in her. And they saw Alexa Bliss go from, okay, what are they doing with Alexa Bliss, to, okay, she's paired with Charlotte, and it was a tag team that didn't get along very well, right? And they made it work because Alexa Bliss makes everything work, including a Charlotte Flair babyface run. But I think you have to look at it a little bit closer and go, look, the reason that this worked is because Alexa Bliss was able to bring out probably the true Charlotte Flair and probably let Charlotte put her guard down a little bit on television. Because, like, if you go back and you look at the Charlotte Flair as a babyface, you know, before she tore her ACL and her MCL and her meniscus, to where we're at now, it's night and day. And you gotta keep in mind, WWE, they tried to bring back Charlotte Flair as a babyface earlier this year. They had to pivot away from those plans. They had to make her into a heel for the Timothy Stratton feud and program. And they had to do so because they didn't have another choice. WWE desperately needed to do that because fans were not supporting Charlotte as a babyface against Tiffany Stratton. In fact, they went and they aligned themselves with Tiffany Stratton. And hey, you can make of that whatever you want, but at the end of the day, it works, right? And so coming out of Mania, they put her with Alexa, and they're off to the races. And they're doing really, really good stuff. So just keep in mind on that. Just because Charlotte Flair may be a multiple-time women's world champion doesn't mean that, you know, she doesn't go through pitfalls and downfalls and struggles and everything like that. She does, just like we all do. But I would also say that you got to give Charlotte Flair a lot of credit for being able to have that courage, go out there and take a leap of faith to go and try to be a babyface. And that's what she's done. So props to her on that.